So for the remainder of this week, we are going to be having a severe weather threat from the northern plains to the Midwest to the Great Lakes and even up into some portions of the Northeast. Weather is either going to be a slight risk or an enhanced risk. And also, with those severe thunderstorms, could come along with a flash flooding threat again for the northern plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes. Stay tuned to hear more about the stuff. So for today, June 9th, 2026, we have an enhanced risk of severe weather extending from Canada to the Great Plains. Really, for the US, it's going to be for the Great Plains and as well as the Northern Plains. So extending from Oklahoma's Panhandle to the Dakotas is what we're going to be seeing in the enhanced risk, with a slight risk following with that, and even a slight risk over here in portions of the Ohio River Valley, really along the Kentucky and Indiana border. The biggest risk that we are going to be seeing with today's severe weather is the wind risk, which we do have a 45% chance of for mainly just the Dakotas. We also have a category 1 risk with that. So, when damaging winds are most likely going to be very likely for the most part. As we saw with yesterday, last night, we did have gusts up to 100 miles an hour in portions of Kansas. So, couldn't be ruled out for the Dakotas, as ruling out it to be possible to up to 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts for Dakotas, maybe into portions south as Kansas possible. We also do have a 30% that does extend to the panhandle of Oklahoma. Next risk I'm going to be talking about is the hail risk. We have a 30% chance in that red, so 30% of 20 miles of the location in the red could see large hail, or the chance of hail, and then we have the category 1 risk, so we could have additional large hail with already the pretty high chance of hail, and then we also do have a 15% that does extend down from the Dakotas all the way down to Kansas. Big threat we are going to have to worry about is the tornado threat. The 10% with the category 1 risk, mostly going to be a North Dakota thing, however that 5%, which is, less than the 10%, but still could be possibly likely for tornadoes to even having strong tornadoes does extend down from the Dakotas to Nebraska, even for some portions of western Minnesota and western Iowa. We also do have a 2% tornado risk for the areas in Kentucky and southern Indiana. Tomorrow, June 10th, 2026, we have an enhanced risk of severe weather for most portions of the Midwest, so most of Wisconsin, eastern Minnesota, eastern Iowa, and northern Illinois. We have an enhanced risk. Then we have quite the slight risk extending from Kansas through the Midwest, surrounding that enhanced risk, which is the orange. This risk for this day is going to be every single risk. I will start off with the tornado risk. We do have a 10% for Iowa, portions of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and that yellow, 10% within 25 miles of the location. Also with the category 1 risk, we also have a 5% chance in the brown from Iowa and Minnesota to most of Wisconsin. Also, most of that is also going to be in the category 1 risk as well, with a 2% extending from Kansas to Canada. Hail threat for tomorrow will consist of 30%, really along the Mississippi River, I would say would be the most dangerous part, the highest chance to see hail, especially even large hail possible as well. And then we also have a 15% that does extend from Kansas to Canada, and most of Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, and northern Minnesota are going to be under at least a 15% chance and a possible category 1 risk too, so large hail could be possible. For the wind, we have a 30% chance with a category 1 risk, so 30% chance of damaging winds, possibly gusts up to 80, 90 miles an hour. Isolated amounts could be 100 again, as we've been seeing over the past couple of days. Mostly, this pretty much could be all of Wisconsin, northern Illinois, eastern Minnesota, and eastern Iowa is going to be our really big problems for tomorrow. For June 11, 2026, we have an enhanced risk again for pretty much the same area. So we could have double severe weather for the Midwest, even including the Chicago area. This enhanced risk will be from Missouri to Michigan. It's going to be smaller in terms of land area, but population wise, I believe it is up to like 20 million or something like that, could expand. For June 12th, we have a slight risk of severe weather throughout the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We actually have like 3 states that are fully in this: New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, except for New York's Long Island. But even like the central and eastern part of Ohio, northern New Jersey, northern portions of Maryland, and even western Virginia, not to be confused with West Virginia, and also some portions of eastern Kentucky. We'll have to be keeping an eye on that. And for June 13th, we have a very small slight risk that could expand over here in the plains. For flooding and flash flooding risk for June 9, 2026 today, we have 2 areas, one over here in the northern plains, also over here in the Appalachians and Ohio River Valley. So flash flooding could be a problem for areas in the yellow, isolated flooding possible for the areas in the green. Then for June 10, 2026, we have just one area of the slight risk. This time it'll really just be for like the Midwest, portions of the plains, anywhere where we're going to be seeing severe weather tomorrow, June 10th, is probably going to be most likely in this yellow slight risk for flash flooding. For June 11th, for the same area, as I said, that we are going to be having severe weather probably for the Midwest for 2 days in a row. Also, flash flooding will also be here for 2 days in a row. So flooding could really become a problem for these areas in the yellow twice. This is the 18Z HRRR model for severe storms tonight for the Northern Plains. As you can see, these storms fire up literally within like an hour or two already in the Dakotas. Also, we are going to be having, again, a severe weather threat for even southern Saskatchewan, in southern Manitoba for Canada. As we could kind of going through evening, we can already see those line of storms moving through. So embedded tornadoes is going to be a problem. I would say, though, for this, damaging winds will be the biggest problem, but embedded tornadoes and hail is also going to be an existing problem. As we kind of move through midnight, these things still continue to be intense, moving through the eastern part of the Dakotas, even into northern Nebraska. Probably by like the overnight hours, like 1 or 2 a.m., this will then be into Minnesota. And then that'll move out, most likely will weaken as it passes through Minnesota through the morning, moving up into Canada, turning more into a heavy wind, possibly isolated wind threat for Minnesota into Western Ontario. Moving on into June 10th, 2026, you can see that as these storms roll in from the Dakotas, they yet to form again. And each of these little red boxes that you see indicates a possible tornado or severe part of the storm. And as we can see, all the way through noon into the afternoon, those already pop up in Wisconsin, and then they'll start to pop up in northern Illinois. And then we can see that after those storms move through, we have an exploding round of storms all across the upper Mississippi Valley. And then this will just continue on to produce gusty winds, damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. So this could be a real problem for areas here, because you're going to basically be under severe weather twice in the same day for people in like Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. So this could turn into a really big deal for millions of people. Now, looking on to the temperature outlook for the next week, most likely the Climate Prediction Center is predicting that portions of the northern and central tier of the U.S., which is all this blue, might remain below average for temperatures, while areas along the west and east coast could remain above average for temperatures for the next week. For the next first to second week, most likely they're thinking or predicting that the heat will somewhat return to the central U.S. However, they do believe or do predict that most likely could remain normal for a lot of portions of the U.S. where all this white is at. a little bit below for the northern plains, and a lot more heat does start to come through the coast. For the first week of precipitation, Climate Prediction Center is predicting mostly above average rain for the most portions of the US. Could be equal for like the west coast and the northern plains as well. Then for the next week to 2 weeks, basically a very similar thing. Most of the country will be slightly above normal for precip. Maybe some parts again of the west coast and the plains or even areas like Florida could either be just slightly below normal or equaling amount precipitation or normalizing the amount of precipitation they might see. Last thing I am going to be talking about is the hurricane threat. So far we do not have an immediate threat as it comes into the US, but for areas along Mexico and even into Central America, we do have some tropical development here. As we can see, looking back at satellite, we do have a tropical storm here. I believe this is Tropical Storm Christina moving into El Salvador, as we can see. So this won't be a problem for the US. However, hurricane season has started on June 1st, so we are going to have to start being aware of hurricanes as they can be a problem. This will most likely just be moving into El Salvador for the most part. We do have another one up here. It's pretty weak. It's probably about to die off, most likely. We have post-tropical storm Boris moving into the Guerrero state of Mexico. Most likely probably going to weaken within the next 12 hours today or so, most likely. Then we don't really have any other areas of development as it comes for hurricanes. If you guys see these videos as useful or helpful, maybe some information about weather, make sure you guys or consider like or subscribing to these videos as it can help grow this YouTube channel to spread to more people, because weather can affect people's daily lives, can either be a risk for life or death for some people in some of these cases. So if you do consider this useful, potentially sharing this with friends or family, or liking or subscribing will help out this YouTube channel. Anyways, if you guys like to see a new video, make sure you guys like and subscribe. And before I do end the video, consider sharing what I can do better for the videos or shorts. So make sure to comment down below if you do. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.